Well, this may be everybody that we get, so why don't we plunge into the agenda here? If you looked at the newsletter that came out yesterday, you saw Ray's article, which I thought looked great. I heard back from Tony Oliver Stevens about her offer to do an article on her own house, and she said she'd like to do it for April. So that takes care of April, and we need something for March. I think it would be nice to have a series of these articles that are about particular buildings in town, and but it doesn't have to be every single time. We could shake it up and put something different in between if we don't happen to have one. So I'm not going to be back until later in February, so I'm not sure I can. I don't have any ideas anyway immediately for something to do. So anybody else got suggestions? Or we could do something that's pretty easy to put together, like just a, then and now photo comparison. We could do something about the maps. I mean, that's a possibility. If the maps are going to be up by the end of February.
I think there's a good chance they could be.
Yeah, I mean, we could just put a little picture of the hallway there, or show one of the maps and have the link there for people to click in and blow it up and see things. So yeah, okay. Well, if nothing else materializes before your due date for the March newsletter, I'll write a little something about that project. But let me know when, if they're actually up yet.
Okay, and that's also a good reminder for people. We can tell them that, remind them that those are all on the website too, that they can look at and zoom in and look at the details.
Sarah Linda, would you like, not Sarah Linda, Sarah Reynolds, would you like JPEG files on those to put on the website?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want high res, or do you want something that's website compatible?
The website gets upset when we try and upload anything bigger than 5 megabytes. We have ways of uploading larger files, but that's usually for those big reports that we can't shrink. So, as long as you keep it under that,
okay,
they upload pretty easily.
Do you want Zoomify as a link, or?
I don't know. Well, so like the ones that are already on the website, I can't remember how large those were, but they work pretty well, and you can zoom in on them. Not a lot, but
okay.
Yeah, Richard, we did put them on. They're on the town website already under the local history team, and I think they're also under the historians page.
Well, I'm thinking of the new version. That's the versus the old version.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That would be
to
good.
Replace them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I don't remember what you did before, but it seemed to work.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I actually used those quite a bit because when I was looking at Ray's article a few days ago, I looked through the maps, the whole series of maps at that particular part of town. And it was really interesting to notice the roads that were there back in the early maps that aren't there anymore. There was a whole network of roads there for those farms when the Hun family had, they had a couple of houses actually, in addition to those 2 houses that are along County Road 32, although County Road 32 was in a different place then. But then there was a parallel road to the east a little bit that had another house that also has the Hun name on it. But that road's there's no evidence of that road at all on the maps now, on the aerial views. And there is some evidence of the old location of County Road 32, which it looks like it wasn't realigned until maybe, I can't remember if it's on the 1977 map or if it was earlier than that. Maybe you remember, Ray.
32, I think.
32, it was when it was realigned. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So you can imagine that what that must have been like for the people on the Hun farm who used to have the road running right down the middle through there between the 2 buildings. And then all of a sudden the road disappears and that just becomes their driveway. So one of their houses sort of looks like it's got its back to the road. But anyway, that's just one of a number of road change.
Mhm.
Well, that's not unusual, you know. A lot of times people had roads going out of towns and going to their houses, and then people would buy land beyond them and they just extend it.
Mhm.
So,
Right. Right. Yeah, there are plenty of roads that have gotten bigger, but they're not all that many that, I mean, there are probably more than I realized that were town roads, and then they've just vanished. They, you know, for one reason or another, the town they weren't used enough. The town got tired of maintaining them, and they just said, okay, let's not even think about this road anymore. I'll just let it go. And you let it go and it disappears.
Yep.
You know, so anyway, okay. Well, we talked about the maps. I did make contact with the Landmark Society folks about the survey project just to see if they were doing anything or what they were doing. And the answer was they're really not doing anything until spring. They feel that they've got enough background information to come back in March or whenever it is that the snow, you know, that they can start to see the buildings from the road. And at that point, they'll get into the more detailed, you know, start making the lists and so on. So I guess that is when if they want more help from us, or if they want help from us, that's when we'll hear from them, the March, April, May timeframe. The academy, the cemeteries, I imagine work is a little difficult at the moment, so I'm not counting on anything, any activity there right away.
well, it's still there.
They're not going anywhere.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
The Ononda Park project, I can't remember where things stood exactly last time we met. The ball is in Sherry Norton's court to make some updates to the map. And I got in touch with her yesterday, and she said she's going to try to make those changes this week. So once we have that, then I'm gonna set up a meeting of all the people who volunteered to be involved in the creation of the other two panels, and talk about all three panels and how they might connect with each other in terms of content and appearance and so on. And the Parks Committee also has a meeting scheduled for later in February. And they want to talk about the map as well as other master planning things. So I don't know if it makes sense to make this all the same meeting or two separate meetings, but anyway, we'll see some movement on that hopefully before the end of the month. And on the cemetery management ordinance, I don't believe there's been any progress. I did hear from Leaf that the ordinance committee had been scheduled to put it on their agenda, and then they didn't meet or postponed it or something like that. So I don't think there's anything on that.
I think they're not meeting until March.
Okay.
Yeah, they canceled their January meeting and their February meeting.
Okay. So they're not, excuse me, they're not in a big hurry.
Yeah, they'll be a little backed up, but
Right.
hopefully they'll get back going.
Right. Well, I think they probably have other things that are maybe on a higher priority than this, but they're not going to forget about this. We won't let them. So, and there are two properties to be documented for demolition sometime this year. They're not imminent. One of them is the house on the former Kellogg property at Titchener's Point, where the new owner is proposing a new house. So I understand from Leaf that the owner has reached out to the Historical Society, and Cody was going to go down and do a tour, maybe along with Leaf. And the idea was that the owner was happy to, you know, if there are things that either the town or the Historical Society would like to salvage from the building before it gets demolished, or document or whatever, they're very amenable. So he said the timing was not imminent. Maybe the documentation can wait until spring or even summer. And the other one, although it's sort of a questionable historic building, but there's a house at Menteith Point, which is also going to be, it's also at least on the agenda for the town's boards for a demolition and renovation. And this is a house that belongs to my family. So I'm the applicant. It's a cottage that was built in 1938. So it's one of those ones that's, you know, not super old, and it's certainly not super distinguished. It's a little bit similar to the one that belongs to Eli Futterman in the sense that it's very, very minimal. It's got exposed structure on the inside. It has no insulation. It has no heat. It has no bathtub. It's just basically kind of a bunkhouse that has a very small kitchen and bathroom attached. But by the time, and we're not suggesting that this project is going to happen before the coming fall at the earliest. So we'll have a chance to let the Landmark Society folks look at it and see if they think it ought to be identified as a historic structure. But in any case, I'm happy to document it just for the sake of having something that's recorded. I don't know how many, I'm sure there are at least a few other houses in kind of a similar vein. I've heard along the lake. Yeah, maybe Ray, you know, other ones. I think I heard somebody within the family once say that it was a Sears kit. It was my uncle that built it, and he may very well have bought the plan and the materials all together as a kit, and, you know, gotten a bunch of his friends together and framed the whole thing up. It's just sitting on piers. It's a pretty minimal house. It's under 500 square feet, so it's, you know, kind of qualifies as a tiny house.
Very.
The little house, yes, we always called it the little house, and we still. And the new house isn't going to be all that much bigger. We're sort of trying to maintain the overall shape and proportions and everything, but making it a little bit more comfortable, and actually having a bathtub in it, and actually having heat and a few other things that will make it more comfortable. So I don't know of anything else that's on the drawing board for replacement, although I won't be surprised if some of them crop up.
Whatever became of the house down on the lake. I can't remember the name of the owner. It was a white house down south of you.
Yeah, right on the lake with, it used to be a boathouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the one that we were talking about possibly moving, or is that the one? Yes, that's Futterman. Futterman is the name of the owner, or Mather was the guy that he bought it from. Mather was the long-term.
Okay,
right. As far as I know, it's still there. It hasn't been demolished yet, but I believe that the effort to find a new home for it has been kind of abandoned because Leaf looked into it and concluded that it would be 200,000 plus to move it, let alone to do anything with it. And that
we looked at it as the Finger Lakes that Gary Jones and I are working on, and it was too small for us.
Right.
So we opted out because of that reason.
Yep.
But we did look at it. We went down and looked at it.
Yeah. I'm sorry to see that one go, but we tried anyway.
Yeah.
So any other new business? Do you have any other prospects, Ray, for the site for your museum?
No, we're still looking.
Still looking.
We would actually like to get between Canandaigua and Geneva in that area. So we think it would attract to more schools and more cities. And so we're still looking at in that area. And that's about all I can tell you, because it's Gary's had, well, I had cataract cataract, what do you call it?
Surgery, yeah.
Surgery, and Gary has some surgery too, and so we've been kind of down in the dumps.
Well, when spring comes,
What are you
let's hope.
smiling about?
Well,
It's
I face it in the future.
and I was gonna say, well, it's a good time of year.
That's right.
Yeah, if it gotta be any time of the year.
What was your recovery time, Ray?
Pardon?
What was your recovery time?
Still working on it.
Okay. But your vision's better?
Yes, a little bit.
Good.
I did one eye, not the other one, because I didn't want to go blind for both eyes.
It's a very, very wise decision. Yes.
I don't think they do them both at the same time anyway. They usually leave a couple weeks between.
They do. If you really want it.
Yeah.
They will do both of them. Not happily, maybe, but. So that's all I could tell you about life in the Finger Lakes Museum. But
Okay.
we're working at it. We meet about every other week and see what the other one has found, and looking at some more barns. And it never, it gotten to be, we're going to look at barns this week, but we don't know what for. We're just looking at barns. So. But it's fun.
Yeah.
For us, anyhow. Doesn't take much to amuse some people.
There's a lot of interesting textures on the old wood. So
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah. Good photographic possibilities.
Well, Ray, you're talking about barns. That reminds me, I think barns are just as good candidates for the articles about historic properties as houses are. So we shouldn't forget about barns. And when you're driving around, you see any barns that look particularly interesting, and might have a good story behind them.
Yeah, because I forget. So if you let me know, we'll definitely do an article on it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it might be neat to have an article where, if there's one that's in pretty good shape, to have pictures of the inside and the outside.
Volunteer for that.
Yeah. It'd have to be one that's in good shape that you could, document stuff, but that would be neat.
Well, there's not many of those, but
Yeah.
we take pictures of inside and outside to the extent that we can. I got a lot of pictures of the inside of the Fletcher farm, but
Just not in good
it
shape.
doesn't look too good.
Yeah, it's probably true for a lot of them.
Ray,
But that also shows,
no, go ahead. I was just curious. When you were doing your barn survey, did you come across any in the town where the barn has been converted to a residence?
Oh, yeah, lots of them. Residents, wineries, you name it. If a barn can be reused, people usually do it.
How about the one on Seneca Point Road that's now the Heron Hill wine tasting? Is
Yeah.
that in town or is that in Bristol?
That's
That's
in the town.
that is in the town. Is that an old barn?
Yeah,
It
that
is.
what's left, they took one part, as you might know, they tore one part right down. Left
Oh,
the other part,
So
and
part of it
that's-
is a historic barn.
yeah.
Part of it is a newer building. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's an old barn on the corner of what, Foster and Westlake Road.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
And
that's the Foster Fruit Farm barn. That's the
Right.
main one. That's
And
one
that-
I was thinking about.
yeah, that looks very interesting. It's got a lot of, outside enhancements to it, like the ivy or whatever, and plus the texture of the wood and the age of the wood.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because it's been separated from the house that was historically associated with
yes.
the
It's
house.
part of the farm now.
Right, is on the south side of Foster Road, whereas the barn is on the north side. And then there's another sort of contemporary house that was built on the same property as the barn. So the barn is now I don't know what they use it for, if it's a storage building or if it's living
I
space.
don't know.
But, and
It's-
also the
it's been
property
changing.
sold.
It's been changing hands a couple, 3 times.
Right. I think it has new owners. So, but if the owners are amenable to the idea of letting us, highlight it, that would be a fun one to do because it's so conspicuous, it's
Yeah.
easy to find.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where it is. And then
Okay.
there's another one on Westlake Road, which was the Lowenthal farm that is just south of Menteith. There's a big
Yeah.
red barn there. And the original farmhouse is also there. And again, the two of them are now on separate parcels, but they're still owned by the same person. And that used to belong to Pat King, who was Pat Lowenthal. So her family had that property for, 70 years or more, maybe more, 80, 90 years. Anyway,
But who's counting?
she always used to talk about the bats. That barn was like bat central for the entire southern Ontario County. It just had these huge flocks of bats that would come in and out of that barn and there were so many bats, they more or less gave up the idea of using it for anything else because it was just.
That's not unusual.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't know. I know the owner, the
More
current owner,
backs and barns.
yeah. The current owner had some idea about converting it to a lot of apartments and the town shot that down. I was happy to hear. So I think it's just sitting there not doing anything.
Is
Talking
that
about
just
Bruce
before Wegmans or what?
No, it's before you
It's
come
not-
to Dual Road.
Is it Bruce Mink's place?
Kitchener Point.
Yeah,
isn't it?
no, well, it's between Menteith Point and Titchener's Point.
Right.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's between Menteith Point and Ononda Park.
Okay, so it's
Oh,
on
really?
on the west side of the road.
On the
Farther
west
south.
side The road, yeah, you pass Menteith Point and then you come to the end of the point where you're fairly close to the lake.
Mhm.
And it's just, 4 or 5 houses up, you'll go by an old white farmhouse. That's one of the pre-1850 farmhouses there, that farmhouse. And then just beyond the farmhouse is this red barn, which is right next to the road. It's actually closer to the road than the house is. And that's the barn I'm talking about.
Foster Road, right?
No, Dual.
No.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's north of Dual Road.
It's the one that has the little Scotty dog silhouettes on it, I think.
Oh, I'm thinking of
used to.
the wrong house, wrong barn, that's right. I was thinking of the barn that was part of the Foster farm.
Oh, you mean the one that's set back in the woods there?
It's on the west side of the road.
That's the one we were talking about, the Foster Fruit Farm
Oh.
barn up there. But then I switched gears and I mentioned the other one that was,
Oh,
the one that
I'm a
was,
little slow.
no, this one, but it's an impressive barn. It's large
Yeah.
and, there used to be a tennis court right next to it, but they tore that out.
Looks like-
Rentals own
It
it.
looks like it's pretty well screened from the road, though.
I think Rentals owned it at one time.
Well, that could be. It was Lowenthal's for decades and decades. And then this guy, Bruce Mink, bought it. He bought the house and he built himself a new house that's up there. So you see the new
Oh.
house, but the other house is still there and the barn is still there. So that's another one. One of many. Okay, well, any other new business or we have a record prompt meeting,
Record attendance.
record attendance and record speed.
Nope.
I guess not.
Okay, well, have a good February there and we'll get together again around beginning of March when there'll be
Yeah.
no snow on the ground and it'll be balmy weather, right?
And enjoy your
not
mild
looking-
temperatures, sir, Linda.
Yeah.
Think
I
of
am
us while we're
looking at-
shoveling.
It's not looking like it's gonna be a very good February.
Well, hopefully by the
Good
end
for
of,
skiing
Oh, yeah.
I want to get a little.
and snowshoeing.
back.
There you
Yeah.
go.
All righty. Well, have a
Okay.
good month, you guys.
Have a
Take
great
care.
day, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
I know.